Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of When the Shift Hits the Fan. My name is Mark Jeffrey, and I'm here once again with my gorgeous co-host, Linda Lehman. The last couple of weeks, we had talked a little bit about our journey, how we discovered we had cancer, the different things that happened. We went through kind of a little bit of our treatment and stuff, and we didn't drag you through that whole thing. It was quite difficult. I know we went through things quickly, and it's one of the reasons why is because neither of us really want to dwell too much in there. So, okay, hang on here. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Thank you for catching that, Linda. The screen didn't change, and I'm thinking that everything should be fine here now. So I'm just going to start here again. My name is Mark Jeffrey. I'm here with my co-host, Linda Lehman. Welcome to When the Shift Hits the Fan. And again, we talked in the last couple of weeks about our journey and what we've gone through in our cancer slaying days. And what we want to talk about tonight is what happened in the days after that. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what happened with me. There was a lot of darkness. I was really angry. There was a lot of mistakes that were made with not my cancer doctors, but doctors before that. Again, eventually I ended up losing a kidney, and a lot of other different things came up that we now can attribute to what happened before. So I was carrying along a lot of anger, but I didn't really think I was. I was just kind of doing my day-to-day thing. But, I had a lot of stress inside my body, and I was in debt. Okay, I haven't told a lot of people this. I know I mentioned it on previous sessions and with people I know, but I was $250,000 in debt because I had to pay for everything with my treatment, just the way that things turned out. And so I had that. I was debt-free before this, and now I had this debt. And my how I was going to make my living, all that was uncertain. So there was a lot of darkness and heaviness and weight that was on me, and I just plowed through it. And it's like I am like that in almost every situation. I'm like a bull in a china shop. I just kind of bang off walls until I find a door. I mean, that's really how I deal with things. Is it the best way to deal with things? Probably not. But it's the way that I do things. And that's kind of why I probably got in, to the position I was in, because I was going hell-bent for destruction. I was going to do everything I could. I didn't care how much it cost me. I didn't care who I had to get involved. I was just going to do this thing. And I do that with everything in my life. I just do this thing. And I've failed. I've gone down in flames so many times because of it. But I've also been very, very fortunate in other ways. In fact, the one most fortunate thing that I think I can talk about tonight is the fact that I'm here to be another bull in the china shop adventure. So for that, I am very, very grateful. But going through this, and Linda, you can probably talk to more about this because your reality is much closer to your heart than what mine is. But when you kind of get to the point where you're kind of through the major part of treatments, and the prognosis looks fairly good, although there's the cautionary thing. Well, we'll see how you do in a year, and if you're still alive, 3 years is really good. In 5 years, oh my goodness, if you live 5 years, we're all going to have a party for you. There's kind of that feeling of, I made it, I'm not going to die maybe, but not today. And before that, it was kind of maybe not that way, right, Linda? You tell me how you felt. I think I had the bull in the china shop feelings, like I'm going to live, I've got this covered, I'm okay. But I still think in my back of my mind, I'm going, holy crap, this is not good, right? How did you feel?
Yeah, well, at first, Mark, I think I left the listeners last time with, basically being a puddle of muck on a table in Chili's restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
And I it was that way, Mark, because I entered into this diagnosis somewhat arrogant, and I'll be the first to admit that I was arrogant about it, because I had already decided before I ever began any kind of treatment or additional testing that boom, 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 this was the way it was going to be. I was going to go in. You're going to do this surgery, and everything is going to be rainbows and butterflies. But the word I got from the team was not so rosy, and that really, I think that needed to happen. It took me down off of that arrogant pedestal and made me face the facts. It made me truly face what I was looking at, because in my past I had, and I was incredibly healthy, but when I was looking at and dealing with family members who had health issues, I was truly looking at it with blinders on. I was trying to almost look through it, overlook it, not acknowledge it. And I had to, I had to come face to face with this acknowledgement, okay, this is something serious, and this is something that I have to deal with. And so after I got over the, oh, woe is me, I'm feeling sorry for myself, I picked myself back up, and I thought, you know what, it's not going to go the direction that these people think it's going to go. I was determined, and I guess in some respects I was angry, and I was saying out loud, this is not going to be me. This is not going to go this direction. And it was at that point, Mark, that I put my mind to being healthy. I put my mind to, I don't know what they're going to tell me that I need to do, but it's not going to be what they initially thought it was going to be. I didn't know how. I didn't know all of the options for treatment, and of course, at that point in time, I hadn't been through any additional testing to see what would work and what wouldn't work. All I knew, and like you, I didn't care what it was going to cost. I'm in the United States. I do have insurance, but I also knew that I was outside of my insurance's preferred network footprint. And so I knew I was going to have battles there, but that's okay. I've been doing that for 30 years. I can do this. But there was a point where I said, I don't know what the course is going to be. It's like, you know what, Mark? It's like a lot of times when people set a goal in their business or something, for personally or for their business, and they have this goal. And that goal is very, very clear to them. And where they are is very, very clear to them. So they know that there's this big gap in the middle. But that gap is very fuzzy. And that's the way it was for me. I knew where I was at that point. And I knew where I was going to be, by golly, at the end of this. But I didn't know how I was going to get there, because the middle part was incredibly fuzzy. I didn't have all the answers, but what I had on my side was the knowledge that the Internet is there and I can do a ton of research, and I also had the knowledge, and this is where I think that we can help a whole lot of people, Mark. When we're dealing with our health, and actually you can take this and you can apply it to anything in your life that you're dealing with, because the principle is there. But when you're dealing with something like this catastrophic news for your health, you are the patient, and at that point in time, you need to grab the reins of control and not just take what somebody is giving you as gospel. Ask questions, push the boundaries, make those square, solid walls of that box bend, and push and push and push until you begin to get the answers that you really, truly want to hear, backed up with some solid evidence. And that's what I started to do. Plus, I started to draw on myself and believe in myself and know and understand that I was bigger than this. This was not going to defeat me. I was not going to go down the road that they said I was going to go down. There was something different, and I started proactively looking for the something different. Not in desperation, but in expectation that I would find it. And I think that that's the biggest difference, Mark, between successful and unsuccessful people and even healthy and unhealthy people. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. But by the same token, I think, people being put in different situations, there is that time frame. And I think that's, Linda, the missing kind of link. I think you really hit this on the head between being successful at anything and not. Because I know that when I walked into this, I kind of did the same thing. I'm just rephrasing it from my perspective. I felt out of control, and I've been in control of my entire life. I picked the career I wanted, and I had it. I had the one child. I had had this house. I had it. I made all those decisions, and then this decision felt like it was out of my control. And I didn't like that feeling much either. So I did naturally what you did as well. I started researching it that night when I came home. But I know, because I work in this kind of area with the people that, with Mark's Angels, that a lot of people don't have that. I don't know, I think it's a natural ability. Like, I always thought everybody would have this. Really? That's what I thought. I thought everybody, when your life is on the line, you'd fight. But it stunned me to no end to find out how many people just give up. And you're right, Linda. We deal with people like that every day in the businesses, where you give them one little thing to do and they get a little bit frustrated with it because it's out of the comfort zone, and they throw in the towel. Well, I see people, and I'm sure every doctor sees this as well, and maybe that's why they're so hard-edged about this, is because, gosh darn, right? What if you were a doctor and you were working in that specialty, and every third person you saw gave up? Like, holy crap. You'd kind of harden your heart against it, wouldn't you?
It would be very difficult not to harden your heart against it, and you're right, Mark. Physicians and people in the medical field see this every day, and it is such a frustration. You just want to pull your hair out. I see it too, because I'm still in healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, I have a foot in the healthcare corporate world, and I have a foot in my own coaching business, and I have to step back, because, as you said, I don't understand why someone would give up when they have so much in front of them, if they would just lean into it and realize that they do have some control and that they do have options. So many people, Mark, believe that they don't have any options, and that's frustrating to me. And even in the healthcare industry, it's not perfect, because a lot of times even physicians will talk to patients, and it sounds like the patient doesn't have an option, that they have to go with exactly what the physician says to do. And I'm here to say that is not always true.
Well, Linda, isn't it like everything else? So, I mean, you go to, in any profession, just because they're a doctor, okay, I don't care who they are, doesn't mean they're the best doctor. It's just like if you go to a lawyer, it doesn't mean they're the best lawyer, or a mechanic, or, whatever, right? I find it interesting how people don't think about that. Like, when you get somebody that says, I'm sorry, you're going to die, the first thing I'm going, well, who are you? Let's pull out your credentials, dude. That's where I get my backup. But I think some people, don't even look past that. And it's like anything. It's, anybody, like gurus out there, and you and I both deal with them on a daily basis, where they say, this is the way you must advertise on Facebook, or this is the way you must do this. This is how you build a website. This is how you get rankings. And they take that verbatim for months on end, lose every dime they have, and never explore something else. Like, and I know we're kind of balancing, you guys, between, our journey and our businesses, but they are so aligned with who we are as people. I don't really think that we can separate them. I mean, my job isn't my job. You love coaching, I love coaching. It's part of who we are as our center. So kind of when we talk about the balances of our life, it comes out the same. I know it does for me, Linda.
Oh, it does for me too, and I have to share. It's a side story because as you were talking, it brought up a memory for me. As I was going through the testing that I had to go through at UAB, of course, everybody wants their own tests with their own equipment and their own people. So I was going through yet another mammogram series. And I got to talking with the technician who was doing the test. And through the course of the conversation, I found out that she was like the manager or the supervisor of the department, and she was having an issue that day. Actually, she'd been having it for the week. And so I was actually, during all of this testing, Mark, I was in my coaching mode, helping her through this personnel issue that she was having.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
She was at the end, she was hugging me and in tears. She was relieved that we had come to a solution. But she was patting me on the back and hugging me, saying, "I don't understand this. You're the one who's sick, but you're helping me." And I'm thinking to myself, "I'm not sick. Don't say I'm sick."
Yeah. Well, it's funny too because I've done the same thing. I mean, that's really how I got, to build the foundation and become involved in that. Because I'm going, "What are you, a bunch of wimps?" It's like, get up, let's get going, let's get, come on, let's find out what's happening here, and got more involved in that. But again, yeah, you just, there's no, I think when you trip the wire to your passion and your commitment just follows through, like everything kind of goes where you want it to go. And that's not to say I don't have frustrating days, because in my business, I had to learn all this technology stuff. I mean, I had to learn WordPress and, our new platforms, and I had to learn how to market. I mean, that was a foreign language to me, but I took it on as I would anything else. Like I took it on serious as cancer. I said, if this is how I'm going to earn my living, I'm going to make sure that I'm doing it the right way, and I'm going to learn everything I can about it. It was serious to me. And I think that's why when people look at you and I, Linda, they might say, easy for you guys. Yeah, easy for you. Well, I always go, well, how do you think I got here? Like, I'll show you the scabs on my knees from falling down so many times in my life. And the only difference was you stayed down and I got up, really. That's all that happened.
Oh, exactly, Mark. And, I'm sitting here looking at my bookshelf full of books and programs and DVDs and just the enormous amount of information that I have stored on my computer. Every single day, I am studying and I'm learning something new to help me and my business and to help the people that I coach, to help the people that I help. The day that we stop learning is the day that we become stagnant when we start going backwards instead of forwards and into growth. And I think that may be one of the hardest lessons that some people learn is maybe they go through school, they get their degrees, and they think that they're done with school, with learning. Mm-hmm. Learning is a forever process. And so maybe on the surface we make things look easy, but Let's go back and calculate the hours and hours we have spent researching and studying and learning and making mistakes. Mistakes are part of growing. I mean, we aren't where we are today because everything was perfect and hunky-dory. If everything was perfect and hunky-dory, there was no growth in that, and we wouldn't be here today. Every single day, I know that I'm making mistakes, but those mistakes are showing me the way that I need to go. And so, I'm in the mindset now to welcome those errors and welcome those mistakes because it shows me where not to go. And it shows me, oh, I see where my thinking was off kilter here. Let's take it in this direction instead. And so for anyone who thinks that, okay, now that I'm finished with school, I'm finished with everything, I can sit back and relax, put my feet on the desk, and business opportunities are going to come to me, and I'm going to jump into them, and I'm going to be an immediate success.
No.
Pinch yourself and wake up.
Yeah. Well, and I think if I look back, I've been fortunate that opportunities came my way, and that I was daring enough to take them on, because I wasn't raised in an affluent family. My dad was an entrepreneur late in his life, and died like 4 years into the deal. But I don't think I was born. In some ways, I guess it's in my DNA, but I wasn't born into this so much as I was built into this. And it's because of, I think I was built stronger because I didn't have any other advantages. I was left-handed in a world where a left-hander wasn't cool. I struggled with that and trying to write with a binder, and almost standing on my head to actually write in things and do stuff, and just from little, trying to tie your shoes or just doing stuff. It was always, I think in the back of my head, it's like, man, life's got to get easier somewhere along the way. And it never really did, until I started accepting that, yeah, okay, so what's your problem? You're left-handed. Get over it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, Linda, some people just never get over it, or under it, or around it, or anything.
or anything. And they know they never accept it. They're just pushing against it all the time and complaining about it all the time, and thinking that they were dealt the small or the bad hand, or however you say that in card terms. But I was raised to believe that the only way that you were going to be successful was to go to school and then work for a company, because that's where your security was, and you should stay in the same place as long as you live.
Yeah, that's what my mom felt the same way. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's not the way the world works, and that's not the way to being truly content and happy with life. Because I've had many jobs through my life before I came to this realization. I had many jobs that I hated. I had many jobs that I went to just for the money, and I hated it. It was awful. I was miserable every single day. And Mark, that's not living life. That's allowing all these circumstances and all these dictates. You're actually living for somebody else's dream or ideal of what you should do instead of living for yourself.
Yeah, and I think people make choices in a lot of people, not necessarily you in this case, but I think a lot of people make the easier choice, or they're so afraid that there won't be another choice behind that one, that they take that one, and then you kind of get sucked into it, and it's like quicksand, right? And you wiggle and squiggle, and you just keep going down, and it's the same in quicksand. If you just stop and breathe and remain calm, you'll notice the way out. And you'll come to an understanding that you have more power than what you actually think you do. And I know there's so many things that influence that. I mean, sometimes it's your parents, sometimes it's your spouse, sometimes it's your friends. And I'm going to be the first one to admit that there are some days where it takes all of my power, all of my self-belief, all of my confidence to say, no, I want to do it this way. And I'm sure, Linda, you can say the same thing.
Mhm. I can. I mean, I've even recently turned down an opportunity that most people would have just jumped at, but it just didn't feel right. It would have been much more than what I'm doing now, but still, it just wasn't right. It didn't feel right. It didn't look right. It didn't taste right, and the old Linda of the past would have jumped on top of it because, yes, it was much more money.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same token, I wouldn't have been happy. I would have been frustrated. I would have been burned out in probably 6 months.
Yeah. And I think some people wouldn't have realized that. You're right. It's more money. They see, and it's too bad. I guess, oh, if I could change the world tomorrow, here goes Mark. But it's too bad that everything is so reliant on the amount of money of things. And it's funny because I've done the same thing in the course of, everybody knows I've left one kind of career choice that I had to come into just working for myself, doing whatever I want to do. I mean, I'm just running around like I'm loafing these days because I'm just responsible for me. And it's the first time in my entire life that I don't have something else, that somebody else is depending on me to do something in order for me to earn my keep. And, I feel so much lighter about things. And I know that, Linda, we talked about this, in balancing what you were going to do next. And the same thing is like, here we are. We're talking about the lightness and the darkness. Well, let's end this tonight with this fact. Here's the lightness. You got to find it and walk towards it, my friends.
Very well said, Mark. Short and sweet and to the point.
Because whether you're fighting cancer, and I don't mean to make light of that, but whether you're fighting cancer or fighting your own inner demons, which we all do, there is light. And sometimes it's a very long tunnel. But I don't know if you got this commercial down there, but we do hear that the human eye can see light from 10 miles away. Well, it might be 10 miles away, but you can still see the light. So that's what I have for you guys tonight, Linda. I always leave the last words for you. So I'm going to give it to you right now.
Awesome, Mark. Thank you. And I love that we titled this, A Glimmer of Hope and Light in the Darkness, because you're right. There is always light in the darkness. You don't bring darkness to light. You bring light to darkness, which means also to me that opportunities for better health, for better business, for better relationships, for a better life for yourself, the opportunities are always there. They are always around you. So stop trying to force the how and just open yourself up to being able to recognize the opportunities when they come along. And try them on and see how they fit. You're going to find the perfect fit.
That's amazing, amazing advice, people. So I suggest you take it. So for Mark here in beautiful Canada, bid you good evening, everyone. And please join us next week when we talk about what we've learned about ourselves in this journey. And I think some of you might be surprised.
Thank you, Mark. And from Linda down here in Florida, good night, everyone.